Hello, I'm Nasos Kladakis. I'm the Product Marketing Manager of Azure Active Directory. And I'm here with Alex Simons, Director of Program Management of Microsoft Identity Division. Alex?
Hey, Nasos, nice to be here.
So today, we're going to cover common identity in the context of hybrid cloud and how we can help you be consistent across your business. Let's see. We have that concept of hybrid cloud among very different parts of your business, like development and DevOps, integrated management and security, of course identity will be our focus today, and consistent data platform. So today, in this specific video, we're going to focus on common identity, as I said. And common identity is the integration between on-premises Active Directory and the cloud version of it, Azure Active Directory. So Alex, why don't you tell us what we have here?
Yeah, so the thing to understand is as the world becomes more and more cloud-centric, right? What's happening is in the old world, you used to have like maybe some servers and devices and your Windows Server AD and your firewall, and that kind of represented all of the compute that your company did. But now what's happening is we're moving to a world like this where there are lots of nodes of compute all over. You're going to have some nodes of compute in Azure and Office 365 and Amazon and Salesforce, and some nodes of compute back on premise. Right? And you're going to have lots of customers and partners who want to do business with you digitally and who are going to use lots and lots of devices to do this. So in this world, what you need is a hybrid identity model that gives you a control plane that stretches from your on-premise deployments to your cloud, and with the same users and groups and policies, control who can access which kind of application from where on what device. Perfect.
And do you see any common scenarios that this identity project is used?
Yeah, well, we really see these hybrid identities used in three common areas. The first is in kind of the end user experience, right? The ability for your employees or your partners to log in one time, right, using one username and password, and get to all of the different applications, all the cloud apps like Office 365 and Salesforce and Box, but also on-premise applications as well, and just get that nice single sign-in experience across all of them.
So what about management access at scale or identity protection?
Yeah, well, so this is another really common thing we see, right? So especially in very large companies, it's a ton of work to make sure that when a new employee joins the company, they get access to all the applications they need. And then when they leave the company, that they lose access so your corporate data is protected, and that those identities are secure and you know they haven't been hacked. That's one of the main things that people use Azure AD for. And then finally, the third thing people use it for is they want to be able to take their custom line of business apps or the apps they're building for others and make them tied into the identity system. So again, that you get the same security and access benefits for a corporation, even from your homegrown apps.
Nice. Let's see a few more details about these scenarios, Alex.
Yeah. Let's take a look. So for instance, if you're talking about one identity and thousands of applications, it's really a very, very broad set of things that you can do here. So for instance, we have connections to over 2,700 different cloud applications, and not Microsoft cloud applications, but all the applications like Google and Facebook and Salesforce and DocuSign and Slack, lots and lots of cloud applications, right? The ability though to also use our app proxy to get back to your on-premise applications, right? So now no matter where I am, if I'm an employee, I can get to all my apps, and so I can take like my iPad to Starbucks and I can get back to an on-premise app or to salesforce.com, all with that same username and identity. And then finally, our B2B service, which lets you invite your partners in the cloud to come do business with you. So for instance, if you have a SharePoint document you want to share with a partner in another company, we make it really easy to invite them, and using the same username and password they use at their own business, then they can come and get access to your documents, but in a very secure way.
That's really cool.
Let's talk about the next one. So managing access and protecting identities. The first part of managing access is really what I think of as the identity lifecycle, right? So when someone enters the company, how do you make sure that they are automatically provisioned into the right applications? You know, so if I work in sales, I need email and I need a SharePoint site and I need a OneDrive, but I also need access to Salesforce.com and the order entry app. Right? How do we automate that process and make sure that as I do that job, I can get up and running really fast, but then as I move to new jobs, the new applications I need are automatically available, and the old ones are closed down, right? So that's the first really big thing. The second one is the ability to then decide who should be able to get to what, depending on the sensitivity of an application. So for instance, if I'm at home on my home PC, you probably don't want me to be able to download all of the documents from SharePoint, but you might let me read them. Right? But when I'm back on the CorpNet and I'm on a managed device and you know it's in a good shape, it's domain joined, then I can download my application, I can download documents and do work on them there, right? And so conditional access lets us take care of those different types of kind of context and conditions to let you set corporate policy to make sure that you're secure, right? Then in addition, for every single login, we give you a risk score for that login. So a really good idea about whether that user is really who they say they are or if they're a hacker, right? So now your policy can take into account all those different things about where you're coming from and the device you're on and all that, but also a risk score for how likely is it that that person is who they say they are, right? And then you can use all of this in combination with our Privileged Identity Manager and our advanced threat analytics, right, to really secure down your corporation and make sure that you're aware of all of the risks that are going on and that people can only get to the things they're supposed to. Even super highly privileged accounts like admins or managers, right, who you want to make sure maybe have to do an extra multi-factor authentication before they can perform a high-risk action.
That's great.
Then let's talk about our developer story, right? Our developer story is one of the more exciting pieces of the platform. What we've done here is we've completely bet on open standards, and they are consistent across the cloud and on-premise. So whether you're writing an application that you want to authenticate using Azure AD or the ADFS server on-premise, you can use the same libraries and the same protocols in either place, right? So that makes it really easy. For instance, maybe you want to write an app in Azure and test it there and then run it on-premise, or you want to take an app that you were running on-premise and move it up into Azure. Because of the consistent protocol support and the open source libraries that we make available, you can easily do that. Right, so that's a really, really great thing. And then the fact that that's consistent across the hybrid identity, right? So again, users get single sign-on to those applications you've built, no matter where they are in the cloud or on-premise.
That's a great story for our developers, for sure. And I think we have great stories from customers.
Yeah.
Right? And I know I have been involved in this specific case study where it's coming from Merck, KGaA. And this case study is about an organization, a health industry organization that has a lot of infrastructure on premises, but also they moved many workloads on Azure. And they start the project by nailing identity. So with that common identity, they started that journey in the hybrid cloud, and they're able to access on-premises and cloud applications just like that.
Yeah, Merck is one of the coolest ones because now they get that great single sign-on across Office and all of their apps running in Azure.
Great. And we have one more, I believe.
Yeah. So Whole Foods is another big customer of ours. They use Azure AD for all of their store floor employees, which is the first time that those employees at like the cash registers or who stock the shelves have actually had digital identities. And what they do is they log into Azure Active Directory from a shared kiosk in the store, and they can go to services like Workday and to SharePoint to get all the information they need to get their jobs done, but also to like report their working hours and schedule their shifts.
I think it's time for our demo, Alex.
Okay, great. I tell you what, let's go ahead and take a look at the end user experience. So this is what an employee maybe would see as they're trying to use Azure Active Directory to log into lots of different cloud applications. We're in the My Apps panel, so this is showing me all of the different applications that have been assigned to me. And this is nice because it gives me a consistent place to go, whether I'm on-premise or on my home PC or on my phone. There's always one place I can go find all my apps, right? So I'm going to show you a bunch of different apps, and they all have conditional policies that are a little bit different on them. Okay. So let's start with mail. So mail is, kind of the lowest common denominator, and we're not too worried about that. So I'm going to click on it, and you'll see I just get logged into Outlook right away. There's my mail, right? Nice. You can do exactly the same thing with third-party apps, right? So it's not just Microsoft apps, it's also others. So let's take a look at Box. So I'm just going to click. I'm going to get single signed on into Box. I confirm that I'm part of the Contoso company, and boom, I'm in. I'm ready to start using Box to get work done. So this is really cool, right? Like that's that one username and password experience across all these applications. But you might also have very sensitive or more sensitive applications in your company. So let's take a look at two of those. So down here, this one, you can see I've got a sensitive on-premise application. Now this is an app that's using the Azure AD app proxy so that we can authenticate a user in the cloud. Maybe they're at Starbucks or they're a partner, but I want them to get back through the app proxy to an on-premise application. But it's a sensitive app, so I want the machine to be like in a managed state. Maybe it's an iOS device, and I want to have MDM on it or something like that, right? So here I'm going to click on the sensitive on-premise app, and because I'm on an unmanaged home laptop, you can see here, it won't let me get in. I can't get there from here. This has been blocked, which is exactly what my administrator would want, right? So even though single sign-on worked, it stopped me from being able to get to the sensitive on-premise app. And then let's take a look at Salesforce. So another third-party app, right? And in this case, in the Salesforce one, it's kind of medium risk. So what I want is that we've set up the policies that when I log in, I have to do a second-factor authentication to prove who I am. And I'm going to use my phone to do that. So here I'm going to go ahead and click on Salesforce. It's going to start trying to log me in, and you'll see up here on the screen it's now redirecting to say, hey, Alex, you need to go answer your phone. So my phone's here. It's going to light up in a sec. There we go. And
using Microsoft sign-in verification system.
All I have to do is just click to prove who I am. Nice. This sends a signal back to our service in the cloud, and now you'll see that once that's complete, that second factor, which really proved who I was, since I have my phone with me, and now there you go. I'm single signed on into Salesforce. So now you've seen how you get that nice single sign-on experience with the combination of the power of conditional access. But in addition, let's show you one more thing, which is how when we add identity risk scores in.
Okay.
So identity risk scores are a way that as your security team or your admin team can make sure that the hackers can't get in while you can. So let's take a look. I'm going to now go over to a Tor browser. So you can see up here, see the little onion, and you can see that I'm coming in. This one is going 2 hops through France and then the Netherlands before it comes back out to the internet. And normal employees don't do this.
Yeah, most probably.
Right? But I'm going to go ahead and try to sign in as a normal employee using that route. And what you'll see is that our identity protection system is going to kick in and recognize that, wow, that's weird. Why would you be coming from an anonymous browser address, right? And here we go. It's basically going to now make me go through and do some steps to prove who I really am. Right, cool. So you can really see the power here of that hybrid model, right? I was able to try to log into some on-premise apps and a whole bunch of cloud apps, both Microsoft and non-Microsoft, but also our conditional access system and how, depending on the state of my device and my risk score and things like that, we're able to determine, is it compliant with corporate policy? Nice. Now, hey, let's switch over and look at the admin view of this. So here we are, we're in the admin view in the Microsoft Azure portal. This is my tenant, my Azure AD tenant, and I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the conditional access policies in it. And you can see here I have a lot of different policies, and this is a new capability, right? So I can have multiple policies per application, I can have multiple applications grouped together in policies, and I can have default policies for every application of my tenant. So it's really become much more powerful. And here, let's take a look. This is our high business impact policy. And what this does is it says, hey, I can take all of the applications that I think would have a really high negative impact on my company if that information leaked, and I can have one consistent policy for all of them. So here you can see, for instance, the groups that it applies to. So this is for administrators. So if you're an administrator trying to get to an important application, this is going to catch you. It tells you for which applications, right? And so I can specify exactly which application I want to protect. So let's go ahead and get that sensitive app that we were talking about earlier. That's one of our high sensitivity applications, obviously. I'm going to save that. I can then specify the conditions under which this will fire, right? So if the risk level is either high or medium, right? And then I want to include all platforms. So I don't care what device you're coming on, but I could specify different policies per platform if I wanted. I can specify a location. So for instance, if I have a set of trusted IPs, like they represent my corporate network, especially for administrators, we see customers do that a lot. They want admins to have to be on-premise on the corporate network before they can make changes to corporate policy. Mm-hmm. Right, so let's go ahead, we'll do that. We'll say it has to be from a trusted device, a trusted IP address. And then finally, because how sensitive these apps are, I don't want anything to be able to be downloaded. So I'm going to insist that they have to use a browser to do this. There we go. So now I've got my policy. I can click Done. And let's just select the controls, right? So this is what's it take to get in. And because this is sensitive, I'm going to say, hey, it has to have multi-factor auth, and it has to be domain joined, right? And then I'm all set. I can go ahead and enable this policy, and now I have protected all those applications, in that case, the sensitive app, right? Or any other high business impact application is now protected by this very strict policy. But all the other apps, the mail and all that, continue to be much easier to get to because that fits our corporate strategy and our risk tolerance.
And this policy is hybrid, right? Both on-premises and cloud applications.
Yeah, that's a great point. It works awesome for all of the Microsoft apps in the cloud, all of the third-party apps in the cloud, but also for your on-premise applications using the Azure AD App Proxy.
I think that's super cool. So with that, I think we are at the end of our video. And if you want to know more about common identity or any other workload under the hybrid cloud of Microsoft, please visit microsoft.com/hybrid. Thank you so much. Thank you, Alex.
Oh, thank you.